Hey guys, good evening.
Good evening.
It's good to be here with you. As you heard, my name is Ben Jealous. I'm the former national president of the NAACP, running for governor. I'm here with my running mate, Susie Turnbull, former chair of the Maryland State Party. This campaign is about getting our state back to doing big things again. It was just a few years ago that we were able, in 1 year in our state capital, to make our state the first state south of the Mason-Dixon to abolish the death penalty, pass marriage equality, pass the DREAM Act. They told us that all those things would be impossible. In fact, they told us that any one of them would be impossible. But trying to do all of them at once was sure to fail. And it was activists like yourselves, it was young activists here in the state who stepped forward and really challenged the common wisdom and said, wait a second. So here we are, back to protecting minority rights, DREAM Act, death penalty, marriage equality, with majority votes in the state legislature. And what the establishment is suggesting is that we practice something called subtraction. If we tell folks to go get in line, this year we'll only have one big civil rights victory, then we will demobilize at least two groups and they're out. And how is that going to help? You know, they taught us young people this kind of funny math called addition. Why don't we just embrace the motto of the Three Musketeers and say all for one and one for all and go get all this done? And literally, right next door to me at the time was a house of graduate students, and within a couple of weeks a sign went up that simply said, abolish the death penalty, pass marriage equality, pass the DREAM Act. And that year, we won all three of those battles. And that was the moment I fell in love with the possibility for politics in our state. Here we are, this kind of funny state, first state in the South, yet with rarely the first city of the North. Baltimore is as diverse as any city you'll see north of it, very different than any city you'll see south of it. Very edge of the Rust Belt, and in a place, quite frankly, where we're very much our nation in microcosm. We get things done here, and they're relevant to the north of us, to the west of us, to the south of us. Hogan gets in office, and things stop, and we start moving backwards. Right now, today, he has been out there actively promoting the agenda of Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump as he calls for a return to failed war on drugs strategies like truth in sentencing. Similarly, he's been actively encouraging law enforcement agencies across the state to sign up with ICE and become partners in deportations and, frankly, distracted law enforcement officers. When I was young, first kind of high-profile case would lead to cases like, if you will, the precursor to cases like Freddie Gray and Trayvon Martin was the case of Rodney King in Los Angeles. And the villainous chief of police in that case was actually the one who, frankly, if you will, gave birth to the sanctuary city movement, sanctuary state movement. He stood up, Chief Gates, and said, no. Then it was called INS. No, we will not deputize ourselves. Because we're law enforcement officers. And the day that we allow ourselves to also become immigration officers is the day that we become distracted. It's also the day that immigrants stop talking to us. Not the ones who don't have papers, like all of them. And all of that will make us less safe. And it will violate our responsibilities as law enforcement officers. Hogan hasn't had even the courage of a Daryl Gates to stand up to immigration. Instead, he's done just the opposite. And at the same time, he's toured the state with Betsy DeVos, the most anti-education Secretary of Education we've ever seen in public education. And he failed to even oppose Secretary Pruitt's nomination, even though from Oklahoma, Pruitt had opposed the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Plan. And of course, he said nice things when he was going through his Senate confirmation. And of course, true to form, as soon as he got done with that, within his first month, he zeroed out the Chesapeake Restoration Plan in his budget. So we have gone from moving forward quickly to sliding backwards quickly. And we have a chance to move Maryland forward again. And what it's going to take, well, I'm proud to have Susie as my running mate, is to do exactly what we did in 2012 and 2013, and to, frankly, build bigger, more robust coalitions in this state than many people think is possible. That's how we'll win the primary, and that's absolutely how we will win the general. This general will be fundamentally about turnout. It's important that you, as young activists, understand that now. 2014 was the lowest Democratic turnout on record in our country, period. And in our state, 2014 was the lowest since 1942. 125,000 more Democratic voters turned out in Maryland in 2010 than in 2014, and Susie was the chair of the party when that happened. Just like my campaign manager, Travis Tazalar, who's a proud Terp, was running the coordinated campaign for the state Democratic Party when that happened. Unless you think that that was what was happening in 2010, 2010 was the rise of the Tea Party pretty much everywhere else. And Maryland stood in defiance to that trend because we invested in organizing, and quite frankly, we had a fearless message about moving us all forward together that then led to the victories in the state in 2012. My track record at the NAACP was similar as far as turnout. 2011, there was real fear that President Obama would be re-elected. A lot of questions about even whether black men would show up to vote in real numbers. 2012, the NAACP, under my leadership, was called the unsung heroes of Obama's re-election by Van Jones on CNN. Why? Because we had run the largest door-to-door voter registration operation in the country, period, and the largest nonpartisan unlikely voter turnout operation. We signed up 400,000 people out the doors. We turned out 1.4 million voters who were signed up to vote, but unlikely to show up unless they got a big push, folks who hadn't voted recently. So that's how we'll win. We will win by building a big, broad coalition of voters, just like we did in 2012. We will win, we'll beat Hogan by turning out voters, just like Susie did in 2010 and I did in 2012. Literally, it doesn't matter that his popularity ratings are high. The would you vote for him number floats 20 to 25 points below that. And the reason is that here in Maryland, Democrats outnumber Republicans 2 to 1. We turn out, he loses. That's why I'm here to talk to you guys tonight. I hope that all of you will sign up to vote in our state. I hope that all of you will make sure that you vote before you check out for summer vacation, before the June 26th primary. I hope that all of you will start doing the work now of signing up new voters and getting folks ready. We turn out next fall, we win, Hogan loses, and we get back to moving forward. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Thank you.